4 years ago, Rafael Leao guided AC Milan to their first Scudetto in over a decade. He was named Serie A MVP. He was the face of Milan's resurrection. And now, just a few years later, he is getting booed by the same fans he once gave hope to after years of banner era and mid-table finishes. He had everything: the pace, the flair, the explosiveness, the unpredictability. He was supposed to become one of the best players in the world, but over the last couple of years, he has looked like a shadow of himself. So how did this happen? How does a player who once looked like one of the most dangerous and exciting attackers in Europe end up becoming so frustrating and inconsistent? Well, to understand the answer, it is not enough to understand Rafael Leao as a player. You also have to understand him as a person, because the problem with Leao was never the talent. The problem was everything around the talent. Rafael Leao grew up playing football on the streets of Almada. At the age of 7, Benfica noticed him and wanted to bring him in. But there was one problem. His family didn't have a car and he couldn't travel to training. Benfica offered him transport so he could get to training after school. He waited for the car to arrive, but it never did. He was heartbroken. But luckily for him, he was also noticed by Sporting. They offered him the transport as well, and this time it actually arrived. However, his first years at the Sporting Academy did not go smoothly at all. At one point, he was even told things were not going well and that he should maybe start looking for another club. That moment forced him to wake up, to focus, to realize that talent alone was not going to carry him forever. And this is where one of the most important patterns in his whole career begins. The problem was never his ability. The problem was complacency. He was a shy, quiet kid, but he was never some hard-working machine with discipline. He needed guidance. He needed stimulation. He needed people around him who knew how to get the best out of him. Eventually, he got past the youth ranks and broke into Sporting's first team at just 17. But then in 2018, Sporting were an absolute mess. The president was publicly criticizing his own players on social media, suspended the whole squad after they responded. Ultras attacked the players at their own training ground, and by the end of the season, majority of the squad had terminated their contracts, including Leao. He joined Lille, where he showed a lot of promise, talent, but also rawness. His manager, Christophe Galtier, said he sometimes felt like banging his head against the wall because of him. He wasn't lazy. He wanted to improve, but he was still very raw and had lots of mistakes in his game. Sometimes he needed things repeated to him over and over again. However, his talent was obvious and impossible to ignore, and after just one season in France, he was snatched by AC Milan. His start in Italy was not easy either, but once Stefano Pioli took over, Leao established himself in the team. He found his position on the left wing and kept getting better and better. In 2021-22, he guided Milan to the Serie A title and was named the league's MVP. In 2022-23, he played a huge role in taking them to the Champions League semi-final. He looked like one of the best attackers in the world, but since then he has not been the same. So what has changed? Well, the problem started much earlier than people think. Under Pioli, Leao found a role that perfectly suited him. He had freedom. On the left wing, he could get on the ball, drive inside, attack defenders, and make things happen. He is not the kind of winger who wants to stay wide on the touchline and wait for the ball. He wants to feel involved. He wants touches. He wants to drop deeper, receive, carry, dribble, create. His first instinct has always been to make something happen. And under Pioli, he was surrounded by the right conditions for that. Theo Hernandez was a perfect partner for him on the left. Olivier Giroud pinned defenders and created space. The midfield gave the team enough balance. When he lost the ball, Milan had structure built to control the transitions, but over time, Milan as a team started stagnating. There was no real progress after the title-winning season. The system was becoming more predictable, and while Leao kept getting more and more creative responsibility, he was not really evolving enough as a player. He kept playing the same role in the same way year after year, and while that role brought out his strengths, it did not challenge him enough to sharpen the weaker parts of his game. It let him stay comfortable, and once again, the problem was not talent. It was complacency. He kept doing the things he was already good at. The same carries, the same dribbles, the same patterns, the same explosive actions, but he was not really becoming more complete. He was not becoming more adaptable. He was not becoming more refined, and once Pioli left, that became obvious. Paulo Fonseca wanted Milan to become a more positional team. He wanted his wingers to stay wide, stretch the defense, hold their positions, and wait for the ball to arrive in the right zones. That doesn't suit Leao at all. Fonseca did not want him constantly dribbling drifting inside. He did not want him dropping deep all the time to get touches. He wanted him to be more disciplined, more fixed, more controlled. But Leao does not like to wait. He wants to be at the center of the action. He wants to feel the game. He wants to make things happen himself. So when he was forced into a more passive, more rigid role, he became even more impatient once he finally got the ball. He started forcing things, trying too much, losing the ball more, making rash decisions, and Fonseca didn't like that. Then Fonseca got sacked mid-season and was replaced by Sergio Conceição, who made Leao the emotional center of the team again. But then came another change, Massimiliano Allegri. And with Allegri came another structural problem. He changed the formation to a 3-5-2. In that system, there is realistically only one position for Leao, and that is as one of the two forwards. But in that role, Leao has very few players ahead of him. And for someone like him, that is a huge problem, because Leao likes dropping deep. However, he doesn't have players ahead of him offering him passing options for quick combinations. He doesn't have players running him behind the defense. He doesn't have players occupying the defenders, pinning the backline, and creating more space for him. As one of the two strikers in a 3-5-2, he doesn't have that. Instead, the role asks him to be the runner, to stretch the defense, to occupy the backline, to run in behind, to be the one creating the depth for others. And that is simply not where he feels comfortable. That is the real problem with Rafael Leao. He is a system player. He needs freedom. He needs the right environment. He needs the right relationships around him. He needs the right structure behind him. He needs the kind of role that allows his talent to breathe. When he gets all of that, he is absolutely one of the best players in the world. But at Milan, for years now, he either has not had those conditions, or he had them in a team that was not competitive enough. And because of that, this summer he might face the most important decision of his career. If he wants to fulfill even a fraction of his huge potential, he might need to leave Milan. But just finding a new club won't be enough. He needs to find a team that gives him a role where he feels comfortable but also challenged, so he can sharpen his skill set, develop his already world-class abilities even more, and become a more well-rounded player. Because the problem with Rafael Leao was never the talent, it was complacency. And until he fixes that, he will keep being the same player he has been for years.